All right, so it's time to move on to our last story of tonight, which is a favorite of both Dom and Tristan. So let me explain. So the stock that Dom was teasing all along was Nvidia, which is not that big of a shock because it's literally the most talked about stock right now on the stock market. And Nvidia just reported their earnings, and shocker, they beat expectations again by quite a big amount. So their Q1 revenues came in at $26 billion, where the estimate was 24.7 billion, and their adjusted EPS came in at $6.12, as opposed to the estimate, which was $5.65. So quite nice beats there. And then they also kind of gave more details about their upcoming chip called Blackwell. If I understand correctly, the Blackwell chip, it's like significantly better than what they have currently. It's not just, Apple where they make a chip 30% faster. It's like in some metrics, they're like literally 30x faster than what they have on the market right now. So it's a really big step change compared to the chips that they have currently. So all this was good news, and the market really liked it, and the stock went up today. In fact, it was like the only thing that went up. Everything else went down. So the theory was that people sold literally everything to buy Nvidia, because like Nvidia going up, like what was it, like 8 or 10% or something like that. That's like over $200 billion of market cap added in just one day. So it's like, I don't know, 20% of the GDP of Canada that's just added in one day. So that amount of money, just like, it can't come from nowhere unless you're the Fed, and the stock market does not have the Jerome Powell's ability to print money. So when you have to buy Nvidia, when you want to buy Nvidia, you have to sell something else. So I think that that's mostly what happened. A lot of stocks were red today, except for Nvidia. And yeah, basically, Dom, why don't I pass it to you first? Because you said you're interested. Oh, and the biggest thing I almost forgot. They announced a 10-to-1 stock split that's effective June 10th, I believe. So yeah, basically, Dom, let me pass it to you. What do you think about the stock split? What do you think about the earnings? And why are you interested in buying NVIDIA? I think you said earlier you were interested in buying it, right? So just kind of give your brief bullish thesis, I guess.
Okay, so let's see if I remember all those questions. But I think as of right now, I'm quite interested in NVIDIA just because of obviously its like successes of right now. I was having the conversation with you guys on our Facebook Messenger chat, and it still seems like they are the leading AI chip designer for like all things AI or whatever you may call it. So I think as of right now, that's pretty promising. In theory, there could be like a bubble happening right now, and if I per se go in, I could be on like the short end of the stick, and then maybe this bubble will pop and like another competitor will come and like make a competitive AI chip or whatever you may call it, and then I could be screwed. But I think as of right now, like post split, I think I'm gonna buy a bit. I'm not gonna buy a substantial amount, or maybe before, who knows. And we'll see and go from there. But as of right now, the success of the company is quite crazy, and I just want to ride on the train too. But no, I totally understand the whole premise of the company. So like graphics cards, chips. Yeah, it is what it is. So I think I can probably hop on. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. So why don't I pass it off to Tristan? Tristan, are you interested in buying this stock? And why or why not? And actually, after that, there's also a segment that I wanted you to lead, because you mentioned something about a technology called Risk V that apparently it's very promising. And I'll be honest, I have not heard of this thing like Risk V and what it is until you told me about it yesterday. Yeah, I think this segment is going to be called the Tristan Tech Talk. You're going to be the host temporarily as you take us through this Risk V thing and explain to our audience and myself. And I'm sure, Dom, I'm not sure if you've heard about it, but explain to everyone exactly what it is. But yeah, so NVIDIA first, and then talk about Risk V. All right, Nvidia first. Yeah, I think that Nvidia has a pretty winning. They've got a winning position in the sense that they have the best chips for AI currently. They have a pretty compelling bull thesis in the sense of like, or at least they have had a pretty compelling bull thesis for the last like few couple years with AI growing so rapidly and them being basically the only ones who can provide the AI capable chips, or at least the best ones. So they functionally had a money printer in the sense of like, however many chips they can make, people will buy them no matter what, no matter what price they charge, more or less. Which means that they've had a pretty winning run for a while, which is a little bit frustrating because obviously, well, obviously, but I sold my Nvidia prior to this run, which was obviously a mistake. But I guess I had I'd missed quite the level of necessity that the AI chips represented and the GPU aspect, and the fact that Nvidia was just essentially the only real option for it at the time. Um, so because of that fact, I wasn't in it for the run, and at this point, I don't think that I'm particularly interested in joining at these prices because I think at this point the company is fairly I if it's either fairly valued or overvalued. There's nothing to me to suggest that it's undervalued at this point. So because I don't view it as undervalued, my investing strategy tends to be to find stuff that I would consider undervalued and purchase that with the hopes of a higher return. Nvidia, I don't think represents a undervalued opportunity. It's more of a um, fairly valued and potentially overvalued, depending on how much of this AI stuff actually turns into something revenue generating for Nvidia, and how much money they actually are making for it, and how sustainable it is. Because it doesn't really matter too much if they make a ton of money in this year and next year if suddenly they make no more money from it and suddenly their revenues tank significantly because there's an alternatives that appear that could take its crown. Not that I'm necessarily saying that that'll happen, but it's just I I don't think that Nvidia is going to have a crazy explosion in terms of value from what it is now. Um, Whereas previously, back when I had originally purchased it has exponentially grown from there. So I would say the bull thesis for me is like a little bit. It's kind of similar more to like buying an Apple, where it's like you buy Apple because you expect Apple to grow a bit. They've got good stuff. You're basically hedging inflation at the same time because Apple's got good stuff. People are buying Apple stuff. People want to buy Apple stuff. Apple's just going to keep going, right? They're well managed. They've got a good strategy. They've got lots of cash. Nvidia is basically turning into another sort of Apple-like entity where it has good money, good income. You're not really expecting it to do it, you're not expecting it to double from here anytime soon, right? Whereas like a smaller company like PayPal, for instance, if PayPal were to double, it would be not nearly as insane of a growth projection as like Nvidia at this point. So that's kind of my thought process with them. They don't really fit into my investing strategy currently, so I won't be investing into them at this point. I am sad that I missed the big rally though. So you win some, you lose
Yeah,
some.
I mean, well, so I used to own Nvidia stock when it was around like $200 as well, and I sold it like way too early. Sold it like not even when it hit like 300. So, but yeah, back then
like Tristan, my bullish thesis on Nvidia was surrounding the gaming part of Nvidia, because I thought that like, hey, like people are gonna play games more because like of COVID and like work from home, and like people are like at home more and stuff like that. And like gaming was gonna be the next big thing for Nvidia, and their GPUs are like world leading for gaming. That was like my angle of approach, and that was like, it's definitely a part of their business, but it's clearly I missed the mark. I missed the big picture, right? Like, what's that saying? Like, I missed the trees for the forest, or I missed the forest for the trees. That whatever that saying is kind of like I ignored the AI side, which I shouldn't have. But yeah, in terms of like my bullish thesis, just very quickly before I pass it back to Tristan to talk about the Tristan tech talk. My opinions on Nvidia is that, yeah, it's unfortunate that I missed the boat. But yeah, I would not be buying Nvidia at current prices, just because I think the opportunity cost of Nvidia is massive if you're buying here. So my thesis around Bitcoin miners, for instance, so I just added Iron to my portfolio the other day, and I've been accumulating even more shares since I talked about it first last week on last week's show. So my bullish thesis on Iron, which if I am right, by the end of this cycle, which is predicted to end somewhere like, mid to late 2025, by the end of this Bitcoin bull run cycle, Iron would do at least a 10x from where it is now. And that's my base case. And that's if Iron just like, has no more positive surprises, if they just execute on stuff that they're promising right now. It's my base case is that they're going to 10x from the current price. So that would be, I don't know, $70 per share, something like that, right? But what would it take for Nvidia to 10x? Well, Nvidia is at like what, $2.5 trillion, something like that. So you're talking about like a 26 trillion dollar company. If they were to 10x, there's literally not enough money in the world for that to happen. So if you look at, I think Nvidia's market cap has already exceeded Russia's GDP, right? Like if it hits $25 trillion, then that would mean that, I don't know, there's $100 trillion worth of I think like real estate in the world or something like that. No, way more. Okay, 100 trillion. That was for stocks. Sorry, I think there's like $100 trillion worth of stocks in the world. So if Nvidia hits 25 trillion, then that would be a quarter of all stocks. So like 25% of all the stocks in the world would just be one company if Nvidia were to 10x. So this is what I mean when I say that there's literally not enough money in the world for Nvidia to 10x, at least in the short term, right? Maybe like in another 10 years, it could do it. But even then, right? Like even in 10 years, I don't think Nvidia can do another 10x. I mean, I could be wrong, right? Like I've been wrong plenty of times. Maybe this AI thing will really like take over, right? Like you need super advanced AGI to completely take over everything. And then we'd be like the fat people in Wall-E, where we're just all in like these little pods. Like it would take something like that to happen, I would assume. And then by that point, like the world would be so different. It's not even worth talking about anything. What that world would be like, because it'll just like everything we're talking about right now will be irrelevant. But yeah, I think that like it's just, my point is that the opportunity cost of Nvidia is just too massive for me, and I like can think of many ways to deploy my cash elsewhere that could earn a lot more money, at least in the short to medium term.